seen imposter syndrome talked about, mentioned, and I know it means different things to different people. So why don't you start with giving us your definition of imposter syndrome and some of the impacts that that has, particularly for a lady leader when they take on board imposter syndrome. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first of all, I'm not sure how many people know what imposter syndrome is, or actually there's even another term of it, which is called imposter phenomenon. And that was actually one of the first terms that came out when Dr. Pauline Rosecrans and her partner in psychology, they actually came up with this term when they were doing the study. So what was going on was that in the late 1970s, according to the research I've been doing, imposter phenomenon was first formulated because there was a study done on women, on high achieving women. So these are women who had doctorate degrees, who were very successful, had very high paying jobs, and they were executives, yet something inside of them kept telling them they were frauds. And the term imposter means being a fraud. So women at that time, this was a study, women were, especially the ones that were high achievers, were found to really deal with a lot of stress and anxiety because they kept feeling this fear of, oh my God, someone's going to freaking catch me. They're going to think, how did she get herself out there? She's an imposter. And it would scare them when they would think that way, even though they're doing all the hard work. They're putting everything together. And, you know, they're working on their goals. They're working their way to achieving success. But every time it was always as if, are you sure this is me? Are you sure that I'm not taking somebody else's opportunity away? This can't be me. I'm a fraud. I'm not really real. People are going to out me when they find out who I really am. And so a lot of people have been doing studies on imposter phenomenon and imposter syndrome now that it's known more popularly as ever since. It's just been, a lot of people don't know the name of it, but have seen it manifested in different ways.
Right. So when you talk about high achieving, particularly lady leaders, is that the same as when I talked to you recently about high potential or high performance leaders and team members? Is that the same definition?
Yeah, so high performers, high potentials, high achievers. But the thing is, it's not really limited to that anymore. That was the study that they did. But there have been more studies going on all the way to students in college and high school and so on. Just the fact that imposter syndrome is something that hits everybody. And in fact, one thing that we've just been looking at in research is that men are actually more prone to imposter syndrome than women, surprisingly. Even though the studies have been on women, there's been more studies going on for the men. So men feel it in a different way. They're feeling that stress. They're feeling that anxiety of, oh, I'm trying to be a breadwinner here, but I'm not able to achieve that goal. Or they are achieving it, but they are just not able to see it. And so it's a constant struggle of stress for men. And for women, we're seeing it in procrastination. We're being perfectionistic. We, have this fear of success and failure. And that actually is very related to imposter syndrome. I don't think a lot of people know about that.
Right. So I didn't realize it was so heavily researched. So that's a ding, ding, ding. Point number one. It's come from research. So awesome. And so based on your research, and I know this is a passion of yours, what are the top couple of things, how does that manifest itself? How does that show up? And what is the impact of the syndrome, as it were? So.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So first of all, I do want to point out, it's not, even though it's called imposter syndrome, it's not necessarily considered a syndrome in the psychological sense, meaning it's not clinical. You don't go to therapy for it, although therapy is good for everybody, so might as well do that for your own sake. But it's not something that's really a real disorder, basically. It's something that is why it's called a phenomenon really more than it is a syndrome, because it's just something that it's coming up, it's a phenomenon. And so it's more of a mental and emotional type of state in the sense of how you're feeling when you're feeling that feeling of being a fraud and just feeling like you're fake. And I can tell you, you know, I'm going to be very transparent about it to my audience. I've gone through it. This is the reason why I'm studying it, is I've gone through imposter syndrome, and I still to this day can find myself feeling that way. And it's just because, you know, we're, you know, just like, you know, the high achievers and people who are working towards their goals and their success wherever they're at, there is this feeling of anxiety, this feeling of, really, are you sure I can really do this? You know, you're telling me I can do it, but do I have the ability to do it? And it's the constant questioning. So number one way that it manifests inside of you is that constant, you know, questioning of, am I really good enough to do this? Mm-hmm. And the feeling of insecurity. Mm-hmm. It's the feeling of that, you know, especially if someone's told you a lot in your life, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, or they've called you names. And